So the question was about standards, for everybody who else can't hear, and are we making assumptions about the standards? And standards is a really broad term. There's one thing to have systems interoperability. I can exchange things and I can have protocols that enable me to shimmy them back and forth. It's another thing to get down to semantic interoperability and have discrete data elements that enable me to say, you did a lab test and this lab test equals, you know, this value and it has an acceptable range of here to here. Well, you know, the old saying goes, if you've seen one HL7 implementation, you've seen one HL7 implementation. You know, how many versions of 2.x do we have in the country? Well, we need, I believe that standards will be the cornerstone of what we do. I know it will be. The issue is we have a sliding scale, and we're going to have to accommodate that sliding scale on a regular basis. It's never going to go away. Standards will continue to evolve. That's the nature of standards development bodies, whether you're at X12, DICOM, IEEE, HL7. So what we have to do is provide a way to handle the different source data's interpretations of data. And we have not determined how we're going to handle that from a display perspective within FIX, because we have not completed our RFP and procurement process. There will be, and above and beyond creating the infrastructure, there will be a number of governance issues that we need to address, and that's where our advisory council will help guide us, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. So yes, standards will be there. We will do nothing but comply with the federal standards. We've already believed 100% that that will be the framework on which we build. If we don't do that, then we won't have any interoperability.
Do you see the majority of the patient data as it's consolidated in the private sector, as it's privatized, or is it public sector domain?
Did you ask me that again? Because I'm not sure I understood your question.
Do you see the data stored being more in the private sector,
Oh.
for profit, or is it in the public domain as access to the federal?
I see that the data will be both private and public. Our early adopters will be a mix of public welfare as well as private organizations, and I don't see people wanting to give over their data to a central repository if they can handle the real-time inquiry and response. I think that there are some different nuances to your question. For instance, I believe that with our partnerships with the payers, that's a great source of information when we don't have clinicians necessarily at the level of EHR readiness that we would like, so that there's a great way, you know, there's a robust amount of information in an 837 claims transaction that can at least tell you based upon the CPT or the, you know, ICD-9 code or eventually the ICD-10 code, to enable us to give that clinician an indication that something's happened recently that they can then hone in on with the patient or use to understand maybe where they want to go with their treatments. Does that address your question?
Somewhat. And also it ties to the funding. The funds are being extended out, and for-profit organizations are developing tools and ways to private sector.
We will initially have this, we're looking to have this hosted external to the Commonwealth, but it may come inside to the Commonwealth. And if you're referring to like vendor products and development about that, I'm going to stay away from that topic as a state employee for now. Okay, I'm going to move on to the Advisory Council. This is our broad stakeholder community that was created as a part of the executive order. Their goal and objective is to provide input on the proposed strategies, issues, and recommendations that are brought to them by the Office of Healthcare Reform. They have three main responsibilities. They have to bring forth their stakeholder perspectives, and when they do that, they need to work on a consensus basis to develop their input that would go back to the Office of Healthcare Reform to use in making final actions and moving forward with the fixed development and implementation. They also are looked as a main vehicle for supporting our outreach and awareness. One of the things that we have probably mostly outside of this room is a fear of exchanging protected health and care information. People don't like the idea at times, and that's why we've seen so much of a strength put into the privacy provisions and trying to move that along within the stimulus bill. We have 22 organizations currently within the council. There were 18 originally in the executive order. It is an expanding list of stakeholders as we find more interested parties wanting to come to the table and collaborate with us. We had our inaugural meeting in December of 2008 with our consumers, providers, employers, payers, public health agencies, legislatures, and college universities participating in our quarterly meetings. We will also be having committees that will meet more regularly than a quarterly basis. The first committee that's really getting formed and out of the gate is the Requirements Committee. The Requirements Committee is to give us input in GOHCR on the user and technical requirements that will become the basis for the request for proposal. We will be going to the marketplace with an RFP, hopefully sometime later this spring, early summer, that will have basically a bid for someone to develop and implement and host the Pennsylvania Health Information Exchange. The second committee, which will probably kick off more this spring, they're in the formation stage right now with their co-chair Martin Chikichop and Phil Magistro, who will be reviewing the recommendations and providing input on our fixed sustainability model, best practices, and education and awareness. It is very important that this process or this application will work within the daily routines of the provider's environments. And so we need to do a lot of education and awareness. We need to help them with the best practices where we can. I was really excited to see the regional centers portion of the law. We really need to help people understand what it is to leverage technology. The technology part is not hard. We can build a network, probably in our sleep. It's how to integrate with it. It's how to make it work in our daily life and make it a part of our disciplined existence without thinking about it. That's what's going to be hard, and that's the business problem we have to solve. So we really want to use the Business Process and Relationship Committee as a guiding body to us over the next couple of years to help us with that integration. And I can see other initiatives or other areas like HIE and other groups that may pursue the regional centers opportunity as being partners with us. And even though I've been talking exclusively about FIX and the Advisory Council, this is all about the state's leadership in figuring out how to bring the state together for all of us to make this happen. I recently had a meeting with somebody who said, "You've got a big job ahead of you." And I said, "Yes, we do. It is all of us that's going to, have to work together to make this happen." All right, so let's talk about the Advisory Council and where we're at with that. As I've already told you, we started in December of 2008. We've just had our second meeting several weeks ago. We've formed our committees. We are currently in a don't ask, don't tell, heads down on the RFP, so I'm not going to be able to talk about that, nor are any of our Advisory Council members able to talk about it other than in broad swag. So I'll give you the same basic information in a few minutes about where we're at with the RFP. We don't have an end date for the council. It's going to be an ongoing collaboration with them. We will probably morph ourselves over the years as we grow and mature within the model of rolling out our statewide health information exchange. So we see it as a long-term marriage. From a work plan perspective, the council dialogues have commenced, and we are focused right now on the RFP, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. We are looking to implement, starting in 2010, with an organization that is selected that's pretty much got the experience, the knowledge, and a turnkey operation to get us up and running relatively quickly in 2010. We will then, while we're working on the requirements process for the RFP and that whole state year-long plus procurement process that must be followed, looking at our options for long-term sustainability. Right now, the state is planning on funding the initiatives. Before the stimulus bill came out and before the budget situations transpired, we did have about $4.5 million this year and slated for the next couple of years. Right now, the current budget has us slated for about $3 million, and we are working on figuring out the opportunities for grant funding to help us get that initiative or the fix funding supplemented.